coming to today's live. Sorry, I was a bit late. I was dithering, trying to figure out how to turn it on. I can see your comments. I have plenty of questions. I have 4 questions to get us going. But if you're watching live, then please feel free to message as we go, and I'll pick them up as we go. If I've missed your question, I had questions coming in from like different channels. So if I miss your question, I'm sorry, and then just message me after, and then we can chat through. Yeah, and if you've got any questions after then, please drop your questions in the comments about what we've talked about, and I'll be happy to address those as well. I hope you're all well. I hope you've got your cats with you. I tried to get Fig to come in, but he wasn't feeling it today. So it has to be, it's like either early in the morning or after lunch, then he'll follow me in here, but otherwise it's just me. Might be able to hear the dog snoring though. That's a bonus. Okay, so I'm going to start with a question from Lisa Burgess. So Lisa's asked, I rescued 2 kittens from a feral farm life about 2 months ago. They're now roughly 8 months old, fully neutered male and female siblings. The girl is lovely, affectionate, and comes for a fuss and will eat out of your hand. Boy is still terrified of us and runs away as soon as we move. He will come closer, but only to claw and pounce on your feet. We can't touch him at all, although he will sleep on the bed. So both still scared of loud noises and lots of people, but we are worried that he will never warm to us. We've tried rewarding him when he sits near us and doesn't attack. We've tried playing with him, particularly toys on sticks, and we've given him plenty of places to hide. So just looking for advice on that. So it sounds like you're doing lots of things right already, because you are seeing progress, and that's the main thing, really. I would say it's probably still early days at the moment because you're only 2 months in and they're still young, so they're still developing themselves and sort of figuring life out, and they're not adults yet, so they haven't sort of settled into their like long-term personalities and development stage. I would say that if you rescued them from farm life about 2 months ago, I mean, if we were chatting face to face, I'd have lots of questions about what their life was like before that. So they're 8 months now, so you've got them around 6 months. So I wonder, did you get them just from the farm, or was there a period in between where they were with a rescue or anyone else? Just because it's interesting to know what their experiences with people are so far. Lots of cats that are born on farms, they have some contact with people because there's people living on farms too. So it's interesting to know how much socialization they've had, whether they've been handled as kittens. And it's that period, it's like the first 2 months. So between 2 to 8 weeks, that's really the critical time where they need to be handled and have positive interactions with people. So if they haven't had any contact with people altogether, which I imagine isn't the case because your female is friendly and is affectionate and obviously comfortable with being around you, so that's a good sign. And you'll find normally that kittens that have had no contact with people are like, you can't go near them and they almost look savage or they look wild. So it feels like, although he's he's terrified and he's avoiding you generally, or like runs away if you move, then it feels like he's probably had less socialization than his sister. Or sometimes they're just vary on temperament and personality. Like she might just be more sociable and like more into that sort of interaction, whereas her brother might just be a bit more independent, because we see that difference in kittens that are born in homes, and there is an element of personality there. So just keep in mind that that is what you have on your hands, regardless of whether it's socialization or personality. They are different and they are going to have different needs. So you can't really treat them in the same way. So you can't expect him to be doing what she's doing, because she is a lot more comfortable with that. So I would just advise to carry on doing what you're doing. Like while you're seeing progress, things are moving in the right direction. So keep at it, and that is a very good sign. Like if you were saying like he never comes anywhere near you and that's that, and he hasn't for 2 months, then we could think about what could you do to try to encourage that. Whereas if he's sleeping on the bed, that's a really good sign. And I presume you are able to play with him, like with toys, although it's not like not resulted in the interactions that you wanted, but if he is able to play with you, then that's another good sign as well. So I would just make sure, basically what we want when we're sort of trying to bond with cats is to make sure that, as far as you can control, all interactions are positive, and so there's no negative interactions. Some of them are out of our control, like if you drop your cup of tea while you're making it in the morning and he's nearby, then obviously he's going to get scared and run away, and you can't help that. But for the most part, avoid doing anything that you know is going to spook him. So avoid raised voices, and he's going to need a lot more time to get used to that sort of stuff. So go at his pace as well, because it's difficult, because we want to try to push them out of their comfort zone and be like, just come that little bit nearer and just be with us that little bit more than you are at the moment. But really that needs to go at his pace. And although we want to push them out of their comfort zone like a tiny bit, we really need to make sure they're comfortable at their level that they're at the moment. So if you're noticing now he's sleeping on the bed, what's he like when he's sleeping on the bed? Like, is he still a little bit jittery? Is he still keeping one eye open to be like, I'm here and I want to be here, but I'm not 100% comfortable? Or is he super comfortable and relaxed? And then you can think about, okay, maybe I might try offering my hand out to see if he wants a stroke, and you can then go on to the next step and just see. But I think you are doing all the right things, and it's just keeping in mind that these things do take time. He is still little, and if you keep everything positive, you'll find that this bond does come. But you can still keep up with rewards, like with treats if he wants them, and you might find that you have to throw them towards him because he might not want to come out of your hand just yet. But then as time goes on, you might find that he's more comfortable approaching and being like, oh yeah, I know what we're doing, we're having treats. Also, I would just, because you said it, that he comes and pounces and claws at your feet, just be mindful of that as well, because you don't want that to develop into a habit. Because while he's little, that's probably not a problem, but as he gets older, that will become a problem. Once he's like a year old and he's bigger and his claws are sharper, then just be mindful of that. So get yourself some great big slippers and just ignore that behaviour, and try not to move your feet around, because it will just make him do it harder. And you don't want him to feel like hands and feet are toys rather than something that strokes them or brings nice things. So I hope that's helpful. It isn't easy trying to sort of acclimatise a feral cat or a farm cat to domestic life, and some cats do just think, actually, it's not for me. I am more of an outdoorsy cat. But it's so lovely to hear that he's sleeping on bed. So fingers crossed, he won't be so scared of you soon if you just carry on with that positive stuff. But it can take a long time. Let me just check the comments. Thank you for holding the Q&A. Our male ginger boy is going to be 2 years old in May, and we've adopted him since he was 8 weeks. He seems to approach us wanting cuddles and a fuss. But after about a minute, he will bite our hands and swipe and attack our feet when walking past. How can we stop him from biting and swiping? He also has asthma, which we are going to try train him on the area cat, which isn't going very well. Oh, okay. So let's have a look what we're doing here. So he is approaching you wanting cuddles and a fuss. But after about a minute, he will bite hands and feet. So he's approaching you, which is a really good sign. I would just bear in mind that maybe he is approaching because he wants to be with you or near you, but he may not be wanting the cuddles, and he may not be wanting the fuss. So some cats, they want to be like, think, until he got a bit older, he used to, my other cat, he just wanted to be next to me. So he would like sit on with me on the sofa every day, but he would sit right next to me. He'd like shuffle up so he was touching me, but he never wanted to be on my lap. And so that was fine. But since he's got a bit older, now he's firmly on the lap all the time. But they all have their likes and dislikes. They all have their needs. And it feels like if he's approaching you, then he is sociable. He wants that interaction with you, but he may not like the hands-on stuff. Although saying that you can stroke him for a minute without him biting, or presumably he's okay in that minute. So he might just want a little bit of fuss. So I would just do it like for a few seconds at a time, and focus your stroking in areas that they tend to like. So like around this bit of the neck, they tend to like under the chin, they like, and like around the front of the ears where the fur is a bit thin. Those areas tend to go down pretty well. And if you come from the side as well, or from the front, so they can initiate that and they can rub on you. What I see, and I'm sure that this is not the case for you, but what I see commonly for cats that bite is people like reaching down, and so that the hand is coming there so you can stroke them on the head, and they're like, and then you might find you get a bite, or they claw out at you because they're like, I don't want that coming straight towards my face. So if you come from around the side, you might find that that's helpful. Otherwise, have a think about at what moment it is that's causing the biting. So is it that it is a minute and that's that? Because if that's the case, he might be getting overstimulated and he just doesn't like that much affection. Or is it if you touch a certain area? So I've spoken before about cats that are not very comfortable with like the back of their, like the bottom of their back. So when you stroke down them, then you get to like the bit before the tail, that's when they might turn around and bite you there, because some cats get overstimulated there pretty quickly. So have a think about whether it's an area of the body that you're touching that's then causing the biting or swiping. because all cats have their thresholds, they all have their likes and dislikes. So it's about really understanding what it is that's triggering that, and then trying to keep your behavior like under the trigger line. And so you can really maximize those positive times when he's on your lap, but not biting you. And then minimizing the times that biting happens, because you'll probably find that if the more positive times he can sit on your lap and be like, well, I'm loving this, like I'm really comfy on this lap and I'm loving this, like I'm loving this interaction, but I'm not being heavily stroked. And then you might find that he does become more tolerant of it, because it's not every time, and he can put up with a bit more stroking now because he's really enjoying his time there. Attacking feet when walking past is a different issue. Generally, that tends to be it's the movement that's like inciting, is that a word? It's the movement that's causing them to jump out. So I would normally say in that scenario, what tends to happen is they could do with some more play. So I would get some toys on sticks and some wand toys and wave them around and have them, if he looks like he's going to go for you, like if he's got that wiggly bum and he's ready to pounce out at you, then that's the time, ideally before that, to get your toys out and to get him redirected into something else. So again, slippers might be useful for you too, just so that if he catches you unaware, then you know, like, you're not going to scream out and you're not going to like shake him off, because that sort of interaction as well makes the game a bit more fun. So be mindful of that. Some cats do attack feet for other reasons. So if that doesn't work, then you might want to explore different avenues. Like sometimes if you've accidentally walked into the cat, or you've accidentally like stood on their tail or something, then it can make them a bit more wary around feet. So if that's the case, then there's a little bit more to talk through there, because he's feeling a little bit scared, but I'm presuming that's not the case. But yeah, I would think normally with biting with cats, it's like our behavior we have to rein in, or even though they're being unreasonable because you're just stroking for a minute, but really that if that's a threshold, that's that. And there's no real way, not that I found anyway, to sort of train them to accept more, other than just going at their pace and getting them used to it and doing it in a way that they're like, oh yeah, I love it around my neck, that's amazing, you can do that for as long as you want. It can be useful as well to hold your hand out and see what they do. So if you're holding your hand out towards him and he's just like there, just looking the other way or not really engaging, then you can sort of assume like, oh, okay, he's not going to love it if I then suddenly stroke his face. And the same way, like if you do it for a few seconds and stop and then hold your hand out again, is he like, no, hurry up, like do that again, I liked that. So you can sort of get his consent that way by offering out your hand. I don't have any experience with training cats on the asthma airy cat thingy. Linda Ryan, I'm sure, did a video about that. She is Inspiring Pets. I'm sure it's available. I'll try and have a look, and I'll try and share it on my Facebook page to have a look. But I know her cat was trained to use an asthma aid, so I'll signpost you that way, but I've not done that myself. It sounds like a challenge. I have another question from Sam. Sam, I know Sam from that's Sam's boyfriend. So she's put, how do I decide if another cat's right for us? We would love Luna to have a friend, but we don't want to get the wrong one and have to pass back to the rescue. Ideally, I'd love a rescue to let me take a cat for a taste today. I would love to have her to have a friend, but also wouldn't jeopardize her happiness if she doesn't want it. So my problem with this question is that I'm really biased around, because I see it when it goes wrong so often. So I always feel like, oh no, you don't get another one, because you might have aggression, you might have peeing, you might have any of the problems that I deal with day to day quite often are caused by introducing a new cat. And actually, like, so many people are in the same boat as you in that they're getting their cat for the cat that they already have, like a friend or someone to keep them company. And then when they don't get along, the guilt is just horrendous, because you think like, it wasn't even for my benefit that I bought this cat. It was so that my first cat would be happy. And so that's quite hard to live with. What I would say is that if you want another cat for your own reasons, then we can explore that. If you're getting it just for Luna, then I would say you don't need to worry, because I know she's like an adult cat, so she's not a kitten. If you said you'd got a bouncy kitten, then I'd be like, yeah, get him a friend or get her a friend. But she's an adult, she's got her own territory, she's got you and your son, and she has really good relationships with you. So she doesn't have, like, cats are not biologically a social animal, in that she's not going to be pining for a friend or another cat to be sharing a territory with. So if you're worried that she's lonely or she's missing out on that, then I wouldn't let that factor into your decision, because very rarely is an adult cat going to be like, yay, you've brought another cat home. That's exactly what I wanted. I don't know if I've ever known a cat that's actually done that. Like, there's plenty of sociable cats that are like, fine, okay, you're sharing this territory here, that's great. But very rarely does it actually go that way. And do you know anything about Luna's history? Like, has she lived with cats before? Did the rescue say that she could or couldn't live with other cats? Because sometimes they're listed as like can't live with other cats or can. Because that can give you some idea as to how she is feeling towards other cats. Also, I'd have a think about, can she see any other cats from where you are now? Like, can she see them through the window? Or some cats, you can tell very clearly that they're not a fan of other cats because you see them through the window and the tail's swishing and their fur stands up an end, and you can like see they're fixated on that cat out there that's just passing by. In which case, it's probably not going to go well to bring a new cat into the house, because suddenly that's like, we can tell she's already upset with just seeing one from the window. So that's going to be much worse if one comes into her home. I would also bear in mind that if you were to get another cat, then I would be recommending like a long introduction. So normally, I mean, it does depend on the cat, but 2 adults is probably the most difficult like introduction. So like kittens, you could maybe get away with like a quick introduction, in that they'd be like, yay, another kitten to play with. And there's generally no threat there, as long as they're like well-rounded sociable kittens. They're like, oh, it's another kitten, whereas 2 adults will be like, there's another, like a threat to my territory, another cat trying to establish their own territory over mine, whereas there's a lot there that a cat has to process, whereas kittens don't tend to have that. I don't think, anyway, don't seem to have that thought process when they're meeting another kitten. So I would be recommending that the new cat goes in a separate room, and then you introduce their scents, and that can take like a few days or weeks. Probably not weeks, to be fair, for that bit, but a few days at least, where you swap their beds around and get them used to each other's scent and watch how they respond. Then moving on to meeting like through a barrier, so that might be like the door cracked a little bit, or like a fly screen where they can see each other, or a baby gate or something. So that stage, depending on how the cats react, like if they see each other and they're hissing and they're like, no, then that stage can take ages, because we want to get to the point where they're like, oh, okay, fine, I'm not really happy about it, but you can stay. Then that can take time, and then you're having to do that supervised time to get together. So once you've got the barrier up, you're like, okay, let's get together. I'm here to supervise. I can step in if needs be. And so have you got the capacity to do that? Because sometimes it's like overwhelming. Like having to keep them separate is hard enough, just having to move from one room to another without one slipping through. And that room with the new cat will be shut off from Luna, so she might think like, well, my territory's shrunk down now. So these things are difficult to manage, really, even though if you get to the end and it's okay, then it's sort of worth it. But you might get through that and be like, they still don't get on, and it's all been for like you say, like you might end up taking them back. So it's not great. But there are plenty of people that do get like another cat and it works out okay. So that's why I say I'm very biased, because I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? One other thing I'd probably mention as well is just to make sure that there is enough space for 2. And that means like the ideal rule for litter trays is 1 per cat plus 1, all spread out. So you wouldn't even be able to have them in a line. And then ideally you want to feed them separately to reduce any competition around food, and have high places for them to sleep, so that like if Luna wants to get some space from the new cat, then she can get up high or tuck herself in a little bed and get that sort of space from them. So have you got that set up, or are you happy to have that set up? Because it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants like a house that's decked out with cat trees and cat shelves and hidey holes and all this stuff. But I'm sorry, I know there's loads to think through there. And if you do get another one, then let me know before you do, because we can, I'll be happy to chat through like which is a good match and whether that's a good idea. But yeah, I hope that's helpful. Another question I had, I'm not sure of your name, because it was just a YouTube, like a little thread that I was asking about, does your cat ever urinate on soft materials like fabric? So this is like a massive area to discuss, and it was hard to sort of reply on the comments and be helpful, so I thought it was a good idea to chat through here. So other comments on this one was, he's done it since we got him. I'm not sure how that how long ago that was, or whether it was a rescue or a kitten, and any ideas what might cause it. He does have a litter tray and it's cleaned regularly, and he does use the tray sometimes. So it's very limited information. So if we were working through this as a behaviour case, I'd have loads and loads of questions for you. Basically, we would be trying to figure out what the triggers are and what if there's any patterns to it. Because where he's using the tray sometimes, but not others, we can assume that there is something about those occasions that's making him be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to use that tray. I'll go on the sofa or the cushion or whatever it is that he's peeing on. So I would maybe keep a log of the incidents, and just, if you find it or if you see it happening, just have a scout round to be like, what's happening at the moment? What is this cat's mindset? Is he spooked by something? Is he being bothered by something? Is he totally relaxed? Is he fine? And then see if you can identify any patterns from there. I should have said as well at the beginning, I would definitely recommend a vet check. I know he's been doing it forever, and you might think, well, it's definitely not anything wrong because it's not been triggered by an illness and he doesn't look ill. But it's when medical issues are a factor, it's so complicated and it's never really straightforward. So you might find that there is something factoring in that's causing this to happen every now and again. And like, even if it's due to stress, then stress also causes or has contributed to feline lower urinary tract disease. So it might be that it was a stress thing and that's caused a medical issue and that's causing the peeing because it's hurting to wee, because there might be cystitis there or something similar. So definitely vet check. I would look at the trays as well. So you're saying they're cleaning often. I don't know if you're cleaning them as often as I would recommend. For cats with no toileting issues, I'd recommend scooping them every day. I tend to just do it before bed. But if they do have peeing issues, then I do it twice a day, just so we can be guaranteed that there's a completely fresh tray, like before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning. So that's that. But on litter trays as well, I would also recommend a clumping litter. I know it's problematic to just change the litter over, but when I'm thinking about ideal trays, I always recommend a clumping litter, and really deep as well, like a good few inches deep, because if you just put a little bit, it won't clump and it will be really difficult to like get out the tray, which that is the reason why people don't use it sometimes, because they're like, oh, it just cements on the bottom. So you make sure you put a big amount in there, and also they'll be able to have a proper dig through as well, and can, like, you know how they have like a big dig before and a big dig after. So that really helps them do that. I always recommend a fine litter as well. Like I tend to use like Pets at Home clumping. They do a great big 15-litre bag at the moment, which is good. It's good because it lasts ages, but also I can't lift it when it gets to the tail. I'm like trying to heave it up. But most of the supermarkets do like a clumping or an ultra clumping, something like that. That's really fine and is nice for them to dig around in without being too clunky or too like heavy on the paws. I would also say, I'm not sure how many cats you have, but make sure you've got enough trays. So like I said, one per cat plus one, and located separately, and also make sure that they're not in any stressful areas. So like away from the front door or away from the cat flap, and away from like high traffic areas as well. And I'm not sure what type of tray you have, but I just like an open tray. Some cats like hooded, but nothing fancy, nothing like one of those top opening trays or anything like that. Once you've covered the basics of the logistics of things, I would recommend like looking for any potential sources of stress out there. So if you've got more than one cat, if you've got a dog, then have a look at their interactions and see, is your cat being bothered while they're using the tray? Like some cats, especially if you've got a hooded one, when they're using it, the other cat might sit on the top, or they might sit outside the front and be like, just wait for them to come out. So you might find them like, I don't want to go in there because I might get blocked in there, or also when they go in, they're sort of attracting attention to themselves because they start digging. The dog is like pricked up the ears, like, oh, I know exactly what that cat's doing, goes running over and has a look. So it's about having a look to see if there's anything physical that might be causing it. Not sure what else to cover there. Other potential stressors might be if you're having any work done. So if you're having like if you get a new sofa, or like you having any redecorating or renovations, that can be a source of stress. And even like the way we interact with them as well is can be stressful if it's not like what they want. Obviously I know nothing about your cat or scenario, but it's just if you can find any areas of their day-to-day life where they're not completely comfortable, completely relaxed, then that can cause toileting issues. So these are the things we would talk through if we had like a proper consultation and we could really dig down into the potential causes. I hope that's helpful. Sorry, that was like a whistle-stop tour of like a very complicated issue. So my last question that's come across is from, oh my goodness, I'm sorry I didn't take your name. I think it was Lynn. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. So hi Lucy, we lost our beloved George back in September. He was 17. Thinking of getting a new kitten, but also a puppy later this year so they can grow up together. Would you recommend this and any tips on how to introduce them and which order to get them? So yes, I would definitely recommend that. As long as you have the right match of cats and dogs, then it can work out very well. And if you do want a puppy and a kitten, this is the best, like together is the best time. Because they'll both be adjusting and you won't have to, like once one is settled, you won't have to then suddenly upset that with like an addition. Whether or not to get the puppy or kitten first, that's a good question, because it's very rare that somebody actually asks me this, because I'm normally like damage controlling what's already been done. I think what I would recommend is the puppy first, mainly because it's hard work. If I remember from my doggy, it's hard work having a puppy. You have to get up in the middle of the night, take them for a wee, and you have to get them used to being left alone and toilet training and all that stuff. And I think if you had a kitten as well, then you might just be making things harder on yourself. So yeah, I would get your puppy settled in, get them on track with their training and get them booked into some puppy classes and wait for things to be sort of settled, or like at least you're used to it before introducing the kitten, because yeah, I think that would be easier. And then bring your kitten in. But I would be careful of your choice of dog as well, because your breed, I'm not really sure if I can like go into now which breeds are good and which breeds aren't for living with cats. But obviously anything that's like a terrier breed, they're bred to like chase the little animals and sort of hunt them down and things like that. And then there's other dogs like what am I thinking? Like herding dogs, they might find it challenging to live with a cat. And we want to think about, is it fair for those breeds that are like made to chase things? Is it fair for them to live with an animal that is going to be running about? Maybe not. So I would have a think about which breed you would like to live with cats. We got a Labrador because with all our Googling, we were like, it seems like it's as good as you can get. And it has worked out fine. It was a lot of work actually introducing a puppy to my cats as they were 11. And so obviously their territory was very well established and suddenly there was a bouncy puppy in there. So it is always a challenge. I would make sure that your puppy is socialized to cats as well, if possible. Like it's hard to find that set up all the time. Once you found your perfect dog, I don't know, would you be like, oh, we can't get that one because it's not met a cat? I don't know. But you ideally want your dog to be socialized with cats so that it's not super reactive. And I would also recommend getting quite a confident kitten as well, because you want a cat that if they do get chased or if they do find themselves under the dog's feet, or my dog has no sense of personal space, so he'll run over to the cats and he'll start sniffing around their ears and they're like, ah. So you want a cat that's going to be hardy to that sort of like innocent but annoying behaviour. So I would go for quite a confident kitten. So when you go and visit a litter, or if you speak to a rescue, find the kitten that's approaching and is playful and is climbing up your arms, and it's just avoid the one that's like hiding at the back, because you might find she or he is not able to quite cope with like the fun of a puppy as well. How would you introduce them? So at first I would keep your dog under control, so you might want him on a lead, and then let the kitten settle in. So I would put the kitten in like his or her own room first and just get them over like the acclimatizing period, because you might find that they take a day or so to adapt to their new home. So maybe don't do any meetings for the first couple of days, and then when your kitten is like totally relaxed and ready to explore the rest of the home, let them do that without the dog as well. So maybe when your puppy is out on a walk or visiting friends or wherever you're going to take your dog, then that's a good time for the kitten to get used to the rest of the house as well, because we want them to feel okay with that before they have the next challenge of meeting the puppy. And then, like I say, puppy will lead so that you can physically control anything that's going to happen, because what you'll probably find is, if it's anything like my dog, they'll be like, yay, it's a kitten, what's this? And we'll go tearing over just to say hello. But obviously the kitten might be scared of that. So really like carefully managed interactions where you're keeping your dog happy. So maybe with like a yak's milk or a stuffed Kong or some like a long-lasting chew that they can like sit and have. And then the kitten I would leave the kitten to freely interact as they want to. So you might find the kitten approaches and that's fine, or they keep a wide berth and that's okay. But as long as like your dog is happy and distracted, and then you can sort of build up their meetings from there and get them spending more time together in a really like low pressure and very boring way. That's what I always say about like cat meetings and dog meetings. You want them to be so super boring that you're just like, nothing's happening. Like the cat's just fine, the dog's fine. That's exactly what we want. So yeah, and then from there it will just be gauging it. So if your dog just is totally obsessed and fixated on this cat, then you're going to have to do a lot of management with your dog's behaviour. So I was having to like sit in front of the cat. The cat would be on the sofa behind me and I'd sit on the floor, and the dog would be like, I want to play with him, I want to play with him. And I'd be like, no, come on, play with me. Even though all I wanted to do was just like mong in front of the TV. I was having to get all these toys out and be like, no, this is much more fun. And then as time went on, because he was like, we'd have to push through all the puppy stages and the adolescent stages. And then when he was a bit older, he was like, I'm not really fussed about playing with them anymore. So there was a lot of management there. But again, like if your kitten is super bouncy and is climbing all over the dog to try and play, and your dog is okay and comfortable with that, then you can sort of let that happen. But if you're worried at all, then obviously just keep them separate and call some help. But I don't tend to see like cats and dogs that aren't getting along. I don't tend to see them, because I feel like it's useful to see someone who deals with both, because a lot of it, especially if when your cat's an adult, a lot of it is just managing the dog's behaviour. It's like the cat will be like, as long as you don't bother me, then that's fine, we can live together. But the moment you try to annoy me, then I'm going to be hissing or swiping. So a lot of it is on managing the dog, and setting up the territory for the cat. So that's where my bit comes in. Actually, that's probably a good point. Like if you can have lots of high places for your cat to get to that your dog can't, then that's perfect, because the kitten can just hang out and like survey and be part of the room, but without being like in the mix at the bottom. So like on the floor. So that's definitely something to bear in mind. Again, I'm sorry, that's such a massive area. But I would say, actually, as a little plug here, in my book, the book Your Cat Wishes You to Read, there is a section on cats and dogs. It tends to be focused on introducing a puppy, because that's what I did. But there is a lot in there about setting up the territory and finding good matches and managing that going forward. The same with whether or not you should introduce a new cat to the household. There's a chapter on that as well. Let me think if I've missed anything there. I don't know. I don't think so. But I think that's all the questions that I had. I hope that's been helpful. Please let me know if I've missed anything. And I will do another one, because I don't work with many clients one-to-one. And it's a big investment. Like there's a lot of time put in there, and it's not for everyone. So if you just have a quick question, or you just want to run something past me, then these Q&A sessions are useful for that. So I will do another one, and let me know if you've got any more questions. Like if there's nothing arranged, then I'll just set one up and we can chat through it. But thanks for joining me. I don't know what else to say. I'll be posting some more videos this week, I think. But anyway, hope your cats are good, and I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you another day. Take care. Bye.